Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from beautiful Florida. And first, let me tell you that the winner of last week's viewer's favorite question was Parents from Ravenwolf. Congratulations, Ravenwolf, and thank you to everyone who sent questions last week. They were all very good. And now we're ready to start a new week of questions. And I've been traveling the first couple of days of this week, so it will be a short week, but I'm sure we'll have some very good questions nonetheless. And our first question comes to us from Irish Gypsy. And Irish Gypsy tells us that she has been involved in a number of intense, unrequited, obsessive love situations, meaning that she has no actual romantic connection to the person, but she obsesses over them and focuses on them. And she says that she's used this in her life as something to motivate her in certain situations. And it's been a repeating theme throughout her life. Her question is in two parts, and the first part is this wrong? And my answer to that is that I would not say that it's wrong. I don't know that I'd say that it's productive, but I wouldn't say it's wrong. You're not really hurting anyone if you happen to have an obsession for someone that you're not actually involved with. And I think that a lot of people do this. There have been times in my life when I've done this. I think most people have had at least one such obsession at some point or another in their lives. Usually it's short-term. For some people it can be very long-term. Some of them have even been the subject of famous historical legends. But I think that when people have this kind of obsessive and unrequited love, they're usually actually using it as a tool to controlling their own life. And they know perfectly well that that person they're focusing on is never going to be in their life. And if they were actually looking for a relationship, they would pick someone who would be much more likely to come into their life. I think that when people choose this kind of obsessive fantasy relationship, such as one might have for a favorite writer or a movie star, etc., or simply for that unattainable person that you know, I think that the person really knows that nothing's going to happen there, and that is what makes it a safe thing to focus on. So I think that in general, although if you were to ask the person, they would say, oh yes, I really want a relationship with this wonderful person I'm obsessed with, the reality is that would be the last thing in the world they'd really want, or any other relationship for that matter. And there are people who will tell you how wonderful relationships are, and they can be. But they're not always all that they're cracked up to be, and some people really don't want one. And sometimes this is because they've had bad ones, sometimes it's because they've been surrounded by other people who had bad ones. There can be many different reasons beyond those as well, but some people really just don't want a relationship. And having an obsessive, one-sided relationship with an unavailable person is a perfect way to deal with that. And as far as using it to motivate yourself, well, if it works, it works. And it certainly is not harming the other person that you're obsessing over, because they don't even know in most cases. Now, of course, there is the possibility for this kind of one-sided obsessive relationship to go horribly, horribly wrong if the subject of the obsession were to discover it and actually be available. And I think that very often when the person is obsessing over their ideal movie star mate or whomever it may happen to be, the last thing in the world they want is the reality of who that person might be if they were actually to be involved in a relationship with them. So I think that it's very important when one is doing this that they choose someone who truly is unattainable, because that's truly the point. Having said that, again, it can be a practical way of dealing with your emotions in a situation where you don't want an actual relationship. And is it wrong? I wouldn't say it's wrong. I would say that it's not necessarily the best way of handling it. And I would say that some soul retrieval or other kinds of shadow work might be a better way of handling it. But on the other hand, if it's working for you, there's nothing wrong with that, because again, it's not hurting anyone else. Now, Irish Gypsy goes on to tell us that she feels that these obsessions also warp her magic, and that subconsciously she's always trying to draw whomever she's obsessed with into her life. This, of course, is another matter entirely, because you really should not be doing magic to draw someone into your life without their knowledge or permission or desire. It really is a rather controlling thing to do, and it therefore, again, is not really appropriate. So if you think you're doing that, I would say that it is very important then to work with that shadow work, perhaps soul retrieval, perhaps other things, to deal with the issues that cause you to involve yourself in these obsessive relationships, or perhaps the particular obsessive relationship of the moment. Is it a bad thing to be obsessed in this way? Again, I don't really think it is, but if it's causing a problem by warping your magic, or causing you to do things subconsciously that you would not really want to do intentionally, well then it's another matter, and you want to address it. So again, I would say you need to do some shadow work. Probably soul retrieval is one of the best things that I would recommend. But there are simpler ways as well. We talk about it at length in the first degree book and also in the second degree book. And we give many different techniques for doing shadow work there. And one of these days I'll do a vlog on the subject, dealing with it in greater depth. But it would be my recommendation of how to handle the aspect of this that gives you a problem. And again, just doing it I don't see as a problem. But if it's warping your magic or otherwise putting you in situations that you would not actually choose, in that sense it's a problem and should be dealt with. So those would be my thoughts on the matter. I hope you find them helpful, and until next time, may you blessed be. Pray for peace. Pray for love. Pray for stability. Pray for the nation where you live. Pray for the world.
Ooh.